The snowstorm came down hard on the empty highway outside a small town in Montana, turning the road into a sheet of ice. The night was silent except for the sound of wind howling across the open land. Jake Miller, a biker in his early 40s, was riding alone, trying to make it to the next town before the weather got worse. He had been on the road for years, used to danger, used to cold, but that night was different. As he rounded a sharp curve, his tires lost grip. The motorcycle slid violently, throwing Jake off balance. In seconds, he was airborne, then crashing hard into a deep snowbank. Pain shot through his leg, and his helmet slammed against the frozen ground. The bike skidded several feet away, badly damaged. By the time Jake tried to stand, his right leg gave out beneath him. Snow kept falling, thicker and heavier. Jake reached for his phone. Dead battery. The road was deserted. No headlights, no sound of passing cars. He tried to drag himself toward the bike, but the pain was unbearable. His fingers went numb, his breath turning shallow as the cold seeped through his clothes. For the first time in years, fear crept in. Not fear of death, but fear of dying alone. Minutes felt like hours. Just when his vision began to blur, Jake noticed something faint in the distance, a small yellow porch light, glowing weakly through the snow. Summoning every bit of strength he had left, he began crawling toward it, inch by inch, leaving a trail in the snow behind him. Inside the house, Eleanor Whitman, a 76-year-old widow, sat in her armchair knitting, listening to the wind batter the walls. She had lived alone since her husband passed away 10 years earlier. Life had become quiet, too quiet. When she heard a strange noise outside, almost like a muffled cry, she paused. Her heart told her something was wrong. Pulling on her coat and boots, Eleanor opened the door. The freezing wind nearly knocked her back, but then she saw him. A large man collapsed in the snow, barely conscious. Without hesitation, she rushed forward. "Oh my God, you poor soul," she whispered. Despite her age, Eleanor was strong in ways that mattered. She dragged Jake inside, closed the door against the storm, and immediately turned on the heater. She wrapped him in thick blankets, removed his frozen gloves, and checked his leg. It was badly bruised, possibly broken, but not bleeding heavily. Jake tried to speak, but his lips trembled. Eleanor placed a warm cup of soup to his mouth and said gently, "Easy now. You're safe. No one should be left alone in the snow." As warmth returned to his body, Jake felt tears sting his eyes, not from pain, but from something deeper. A stranger had opened her door without fear, without questions. In that moment, lying on the floor of a small, warm house, Jake realized something powerful. Kindness still existed, even in the coldest places. Outside, the storm raged on. Inside, two lonely lives crossed paths, about to change each other forever. Jake woke up the next morning to the smell of fresh coffee and something warm baking in the oven. For a moment, he was confused, staring at the unfamiliar ceiling above him. Then the memories came rushing back. The ice, the crash, the cold, and the porch light that had saved his life. He tried to sit up, but a sharp pain shot through his leg. "Don't move too fast," a gentle voice said. Eleanor stood in the doorway holding a tray. She had bandaged his leg carefully and placed a pillow beneath it during the night. The storm had finally passed, leaving the world outside buried in thick white snow. "You had a bad fall," she continued. "I called the local clinic this morning. Roads are still blocked, but a doctor will come as soon as they clear." Jake looked at her, his voice low with emotion. "You didn't have to do all this. I'm a stranger." Eleanor smiled softly. "So was my husband once," she said. "And someone helped him when he needed it. Kindness doesn't ask for names." Over the next 2 days, Jake stayed in Eleanor's home while his leg healed enough for travel. They talked for hours. Eleanor spoke about her late husband, a truck driver who never came home one winter night. Jake listened quietly, understanding more than he said. He shared stories of the road, of the brotherhood among bikers, and the loneliness that often followed him despite being surrounded by people. When the roads finally reopened, Jake prepared to leave. Eleanor packed him food for the journey and insisted he take her husband's old wool scarf. As Jake stood at the door, leaning on a cane, he hesitated. "I don't know how to repay you," he said. Eleanor looked him straight in the eyes. "Live," she replied. "That's enough." Weeks passed. Eleanor returned to her quiet routine, assuming she would never see Jake again. Then one Saturday morning, the ground began to shake. The sound of engines roared through the valley, dozens of motorcycles approaching her small home. Eleanor stepped onto the porch, her heart pounding. The bikers stopped and removed their helmets. Jake stepped forward, walking steadily now. "These are my brothers and sisters," he said proudly. "And this is the woman who saved my life." Instead of chaos, the day became something beautiful. The bikers repaired Eleanor's broken fence, fixed her leaking roof, chopped firewood, and cleared months of snow from her land. Others stocked her pantry and paid off her overdue medical bills. As the sun set, Jake knelt in front of Eleanor. "You didn't just save me," he said. "You gave us a reason to believe in goodness again." Tears rolled down Eleanor's face as she realized something she hadn't felt in years: she was no longer alone. One act of kindness had built a family where none existed, proving that compassion can change lives in ways no one ever expects. After that unforgettable day, Eleanor's life was never the same. The quiet house that once echoed with silence now seemed warmer, fuller, even when she was alone. The bikers didn't disappear after fixing her home, they stayed connected. Every week, someone called to check on her. Sometimes it was Jake, sometimes it was another member of the club, each one speaking to her with the same respect and affection. Winter slowly turned into spring. The snow melted, revealing the land around Eleanor's house, once neglected, now carefully restored. One afternoon, a pickup truck arrived carrying lumber, paint, and gardening tools. Jake stepped out with a smile. "We thought this place could use a little color," he said. Together, they spent days working side by side. The bikers rebuilt Eleanor's old barn, painted her porch, and planted flowers along the fence. Neighbors who once feared the sound of motorcycles began stopping by, curious. What they saw surprised them: laughter, teamwork, and kindness. The town's perception changed. People realized the bikers weren't troublemakers, they were protectors. Soon, the club organized a winter clothing drive in Eleanor's name, helping homeless families and stranded travelers. The small town sheriff, once suspicious, shook Jake's hand and said, "You boys did good." One evening, Eleanor sat with Jake on the porch, watching the sunset paint the sky orange and gold. She held the wool scarf he had returned, neatly folded. "I lost my family once," she said quietly. "I never thought I'd find another at my age." Jake nodded. "I spent my life riding away from things. Turns out, what I was looking for was a place to belong." Months later, the biker club officially named Eleanor their honorary guardian. They gave her a leather vest, not for riding, but for meaning. On the back, stitched in silver thread, were the words, "Mother of the Road." Eleanor laughed through tears when she saw it. Her home became a safe stop for travelers caught in bad weather. A sign appeared by the road: "Warm coffee. Safe rest. No one left behind." The porch light stayed on every night, just as it had the night Jake nearly died. Years later, when Eleanor passed peacefully in her sleep, the town gathered for her farewell. Hundreds of motorcycles lined the road, engines silent, heads bowed. Jake stood at the front, holding the scarf and the vest. "She saved my life," he told the crowd. "But more than that, she taught us how to live." As the bikers rode away that day, the porch light remained glowing. A symbol, a promise. Because sometimes, all it takes to change everything is opening one door in the middle of a storm.